Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Not the Girl Next Door. I'm your host, Meg Reynolds, and in case you haven't heard, Carl is a mess. And we're all a mess because what the fuck is happening in the Bravoverse right now? And I'm not just going to be dogging on Amanda and West, even though I am going to be a little bit, but there is so much to talk about with this whole situation as a whole. And I know by the time this episode comes out, it may be like beating a dead horse, but beating dead horses, one of my favorite hobbies. Needle pointing, trauma dumping, beating a dead horse, dream date, my freaking dream date. And I'm not just going to beat this dead horse. I'm going to dance on its grave because, again, so much to say here. And as much as it is a, oh my God, what the fuck is she doing situation, I hate to say it, I was really not surprised when I saw the West and Amanda news. I don't know why. I was just like, yeah, that checks. And there's so many reasons for that. But all in all, we can all agree it's fucked up. But I see people being... So here's the thing. If you're listening to this episode, I'll give you a brief synopsis of what the fuck I'm talking about because there is a larger theme at play here. So basically, Bravo hit TV show Summer House, season 10. This lore goes all the way back to season 8. I believe it was season 8 where Sierra Miller, West Wilson, situationship. We've all been there. However, West did Sierra dirty, wouldn't commit to her, basically led her on and broke her heart. However, this is not the end because normally in that scenario, you say bye-bye to your situationship. You never see them again. You're not in a friend group with them, let alone filming a reality TV show with them. That's exactly what is going on here. Now, fast forward, Amanda and Kyle have been together the entirety of Summer House's existence. They got married, I want to say 4 years ago. Now they are getting divorced. Literally, like, the body of their marriage wasn't even cold. Ink hasn't even been put to paper yet. And Amanda is already dating West, who I would argue is Kyle Cook 10 years ago if he could grow a mustache. But I wasn't surprised by the news that Amanda and West were together for so many reasons. And frankly, anyone who watches Summer House kind of shouldn't have been surprised by this either because Amanda, even though she somehow got this label of being a girl's girl, I don't think throughout the series we've really seen much girl's girl behavior out of her. Frankly, if anything, she's the queen of holding the women in her life to the highest of high standards and then letting the men treat her like a doormat, i.e. her entire marriage to Kyle. But this is why I'm saying I wasn't surprised too, because I want us to look at, I feel like there's so much on reality TV these days that is like cautionary tales of why you should not settle down so early in your 20s. Like not just Amanda Petula, but also all of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which I'm going to also touch on in a minute. But think about it. Summer House is 10 seasons in. That's 10 years of these people's lives that we have followed. So it does form these very parasocial relationships. But Amanda, she joined season 1 as Kyle's essentially girlfriend, but like he wouldn't commit to her, cheated on her every weekend. And she was 24 at the time. Now she's 34, almost 35. And if we're being so real, she doesn't have an identity. Like, even though we have watched 10 years of her life, I don't think anyone could sit there and say who Amanda Petula is the way we do have such a clear identity around Sierra Miller and Paige DeSorbo, other Summer House alumni. Because Amanda Petula is a prime example of the price you pay when you skip your single era in your 20s. Her entire identity has been built around being somebody's girlfriend, then their wife, and there was no she left until now. And let's be so real, she didn't even leave until there was another guy in the picture, because I'm going to be so honest, there was some sort of overlap. Like watching the season, even before this news was announced, I'm like, they just seem like, for a guy that did My Best Friend dirty, they just seem like a little too close, okay? A little too close for comfort. And like, think about who you were at 24. Imagine at 24 having your life documented for the next 10 years, and it's just 10 years of you begging for the bare minimum, being yelled at by your partner, being cheated on by your partner, for this all, like the whole world to see. And then you still marry him. Like that is what we're watching here. And now at 34, the cycle is continuing for her. And the same guy, different font. And it's a prime example of the pattern isn't going to change if you don't change. Because let's be real, as much as Wes Wilson was our liberal king, he's still a douchebag for so many reasons. He's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I'm going to also touch on this in a minute, like the problematic liberal men who are just still holding women back. And I'm going to get to all of that in a second. For 10 seasons, 10 years, we have watched Amanda Batula throw a pity party every single season. And for the past couple seasons, it's been Sierra Miller who's been listening to that pity party and letting her cry on her shoulder. And as much as this scenario has been being compared to Scandival, there's ways in which it's worse and there's ways in which it's not. I'm going to focus on the ways in which I think it's worse. Is while Ariana Madix and Raquel, whatever her last name is, were close, I would argue Sierra and Amanda were closer. And Sierra has been vocal on camera, and I can only imagine how vocal she's been off camera and crying on Amanda's shoulder about like the ways in the backlash she about the backlash she faced for dating West, a white man. And this is a pain I, as a white woman, will never understand. Like the racial I can't say this word. The racial fetishization. Oh my God, that was a hard word. Tongue twister. The racial I give up. That kind of I'm going to just skip that word. You guys know what I'm trying to say. But for her to be so vocal on camera about these issues, these racial systemic issues that I will never understand, a majority of her cast members won't understand, people who are supposed to be her best friends will not understand, and then Amanda turns around and is part of that same dynamic, that is a kind of betrayal that none of us can ever understand. Where I think I can relate to Sierra, and a lot of other women can relate to Sierra, is while the racial aspect is a huge and painful part of the scenario, the thing that I can relate to the most is feeling like I'm being wanted purely for my body and I'm purely a fantasy and no one is ever willing to get to know me. And this is a part of the issue. This is a piece of the conversation that Sierra discusses on camera. And while I cannot understand her struggles as a Black woman, I can understand her struggle of feeling like she is desired sexually and intimately, but never truly wanted. That is a pain unlike any other, and I think a lot of women can relate to. And so I'm just imagining all the times where I have felt that pain and a guy has done me so wrong in those ways and used me and been intimate with me both emotionally and physically. If my best friend were to then turn around and not only hook up with that person, but date that person, and we were all in close proximity to each other. Like I was literally explaining this whole scenario to my best friend, Haley, who you guys have heard on the podcast before. And I brought up the ex that she was on the podcast last year talking about. And I explained this whole situation in those terms. She was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Because she doesn't watch Summer House. But that is a specific kind of betrayal, let alone adding in the racial aspect of the conversation. Like it just makes it so much worse. But the pain of being desired as an object and never actually wanted and never actually chosen as a partner is a pain unlike any other. And part of me almost wonders if there was almost like a quiet resentment Amanda had towards Sierra. Because think about it, hear me out. But Amanda is someone who has no self-respect. She has no self-esteem. We've actually seen her on camera also talk about the ways in which she feels insecure and all these things. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's great that she could sit there and acknowledge it, but she never changed it. She never changed herself or the behaviors or never really did anything otherwise. Whereas Sierra loves herself, loves her life, and holds herself to such high standards and holds her boundaries so incredibly well. I mean, we have seen time and time again the ways in which she will hold the men on Summer House accountable for their actions and the way they treat her. And Amanda simply has it. Sierra has bought a house. She is a multifaceted, like multi-accomplished woman, holds men accountable, refuses to settle, and Amanda just has it. And this is why you can't have best friends who don't even like themselves. Because if they don't even like themselves and they don't even respect themselves, how are they going to respect you as a friend? And I'm not saying to just abandon your friends who are struggling, but pay attention to the ways in which they treat you. Again, Amanda has spent the better part of a decade begging a man for the bare minimum. And now she is once again going back in time essentially and probably going to be begging another man for the bare minimum. Like, and don't get me wrong, Kyle and Amanda, I don't think Kyle is completely innocent. He's definitely not completely innocent. Like, Kyle himself is a toxic man. We have seen the ways in which he could be verbally abusive on camera, not just to his wife, but to the entire cast. We've seen the rage. He is an overgrown frat bro who is in charge of a company. Like, and now he's a DJ. Like, we all know the DJ pipeline. It's very, very real. But that does not excuse the fact that all in all, these two were so incredibly incompatible from the start. Prime example, Amanda doesn't like to go out. Kyle wants to go out, black out. Like, this is why who you choose as your partner is going to directly impact the rest of your life. It is the biggest decision you're going to make in your life. And so again, Amanda spent her entire 20s tied to a man who couldn't even just do something as simple as not cheat on her. Again, parasocial commentary, I don't know these people, but it's so fascinating to be able to watch these things on reality TV when all of us can relate to this. And so it's like, if this is what we're seeing on TV, Lord knows what wasn't filmed. You know what I mean? However, there is one thing in this situation that has made me agree with Kyle Cook, and never in my life did I think I would say I agree with Kyle Cook on something he said. But Kyle's insight, he was stopped on the street and he said he's not going to have a problem filming with Amanda, but he's going to have a problem filming with a dude who uses his charm to get whatever he wants and says the right thing at the right time. This is where I want to get into the liberal men trap, right? Because you've got West Wilson and you've even got Chase from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, these men who know exactly what to say and when to say it to increase their public perception. And I'm not even talking like just influencer men, just men in general. They know, again, it's an open book test right now of what women want and what women need from men. So it is now easier than ever for men to put on the good guy act and not actually walk the walk. And there's this pattern of men who are charming, politically progressive, and they say all the right things, and they will still dog you because at the end of the day, they are still a man. And unfortunately, West Wilson, Chase from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, public number one offenders, all right? There should be a warrant out for their arrest for that shit. Hot and correct political opinions does not mean they're not going to be a piece of shit to you, okay? If anything, like, we've normalized toxic men so much, and women are so used to being treated so poorly that guys like West are able to just slip through the cracks and we're just like, oh, he's not as bad, so like he's fine, right? It's like, no, it's still not acceptable. Like, he has no, like, it's just so frustrating. And I think that's part of why this situation just doesn't sit well all in all as well too, because here's the thing. It's very clear that Amanda was vulnerable. And in the Chase Secret Lives of Mormon Wives situation, Taylor's been a vulnerable woman. Jessie was a vulnerable woman when they apparently made out, like she's going through divorce. I am not saying these women are absolved of, their parts in the situations, but men can spot when a woman is vulnerable and like especially emotionally vulnerable, and they will be able to say exactly the right things to get whatever it is they want out of them, like intimacy wise. And it doesn't even just mean sex. Like, and I'm going to touch on that as well. But I think all in all, what we can learn from this Bravo TV situation is there is a telltale sign of when a woman is male-centered. And it's when she holds the women in her life to stricter standards than she holds the men in her life. Again, Amanda, prime example. We have seen season after season of her going after, like, she hones in on women and holds them to certain standards. And yet, again, look at who she was married to and with for a freaking decade. She lets herself be a doormat. And then you have the women like Lindsay Hubbard and other women on TV who are so cutthroat that they get labeled a bitch, when in reality, it's actually just their discernment is so fucking strong that they are ahead of their time with it. And it gets them labeled the villain when actually they're just correct. And I don't know if anyone else remembers this. Like, I remember the time when Lindsay Hubbard did not like Amanda Batula. Like, she used to crop her out of Instagram photos. So I cannot wait for this reunion. Like, I absolutely cannot wait for it because I feel like there's going to be there's going to be so much more to unpack here with this situation. And another, again, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is another great example as to why you don't make permanent decisions in your early 20s, because we are watching in real time these women get the ick with the men in their lives. We're watching in real time them deconstruct all of the values they've been raised to hold and really emerge into themselves. And, like the dynamics of their lives are just outdated and the foundations are crumbling. They're seeing their husband's true colors emerge. Like, you can watch it in real time. And as hard as it is sometimes to watch that show, I think it is, again, a great example as to why getting married in your early 20s isn't always the best thing. And look, if you're somebody who got married in your early 20s, has had kids in your early 20s, and you are happy and you are fulfilled with your life, this is not about you. That is great. You can absolutely do whatever it is you want with your life. But I hope you didn't do it because you feel like you had to and is what is expected of you. And I hope you did it purely because that is what you wanted for your life. There's nothing wrong with wanting a white picket fence life. It becomes an issue when you are only doing it because, well, that's just what you do and that's what life is. That is the problem. Because here's the other thing that no one will, the quiet part about dating that nobody will say out loud is that dating is more fun when you're fucking stupid. All right. It's more fun when you have no standards, no boundaries, and it's just, for me personally, like the hopeless romantic and being a raging cunt cycle is alive in me at all times. And it's such a balance every day of me wanting to yearn for a man and then being like, no, fuck this. Like, I don't have time for this. Like, why am I going to get my hopes up just to be disappointed by another man? Like, look, don't get me wrong. I would love for a man to prove me wrong. I would love for a man who spews some bullshit to actually be a man of his word. I'm literally before this episode, a man just pissed me off. So I'm all fired up right now recording this. But like, it's funny because I started scripting out this episode before this even happened. But the men always come back in some capacity. And I just had this happen to me where a guy I knew 3 years ago who we were in a situationship. He wasn't toxic or anything. He was just an asshole. For lack of a better word, he was just a fucking dick to me. Came back into my life, gave the whole spiel of, I know I dogged you. I've grown up. And again, I really thought I saw the change in him. And I listened to the whole speech and I was like, sure, I'll give you your shot. Drops the ball. Immediately fumbles the ball. And I'm just like, I can't help but sit there and be like, you dumb bitch. Why did we even think, again, but I'm not a dumb bitch for that. I wanted to see where it went. And you know what? It went fucking nowhere and I'm moving on with my damn life. But, when men, and this is a guy I have never even slept with. But the thing is, the men, they always come back and it's not always about sex. Literally every single guy has tried to come back into my life at some point. And most of them, it was not even about sex. It was about just access to my emotional capacity and my emotional intimacy. Like, for some reason, I am the person that they feel like they can open up to. And I can't even tell you how many times I've been told by a man, I've never opened up to anybody like that. And it's like, part of me wants to, I used to have this mindset of like, oh, they just opened up and, they got scared and they cleaned back up and like, oh, that's so sad. No. He just actually needs therapy. I'm not a free fucking therapist. I should start charging for this shit. Okay. But like the clearest sign that a man doesn't want you is he only shows up when you have finally moved on. And he just wants to see if you've moved on. He just wants to see if he can have that access to you still. And look, there is nothing wrong if you want to give a guy a second chance years later. It works out for some people, great. And whatever. But right person, wrong time doesn't exist. Right? It's the right person is in your life at the right time. And they are in the right place as well. And again, maybe it is with the person you've dated previously. Doesn't mean it was still right person, wrong time. They had to become the person who was worthy of loving you, who deserved you. And frankly, from now on, like when I hear a guy say to me, wow, I've never opened up to anyone like that. Wow, I've never opened up like that to anybody. Next time I hear that, I'm going red flag. I normally wouldn't think it's a red flag, but just from pattern of behavior, in my opinion, kind of a red flag. Because what do you mean on our third date, you're opening up to me in a way that you've never opened up to anybody else? Like, am I wrong? Am I wrong there for thinking that? I'm going to need some commentary on that one because don't get me wrong. I love when we get down to the nitty gritty. I have said it a million times that the reason I suck at dating is because I don't give a shit about your favorite color or where you went to college. I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know your trauma. I want to know all of the things about you. But I don't want to be the first person that you've opened up to, okay? I don't want to be the first person that you've been capable of letting in, because that tells me that you have a lot of work to still do. And frankly, I don't want to be the one doing the work. I have done the work on myself. It is exhausting. It is brutal. It is painful. I don't need to be holding a man's hand at our grown age and helping him do that work. I will absolutely be a support system. I will be somebody he can lean on. But I am not doing the damn work for him, and I'm not going to try to anymore. Because here's the thing, there's a beauty about being able to fall apart in somebody's arms and feel safe. I crave that. Like, that is one of the things that drew me back to the guy that came back, is he was like, I know I never made you feel safe, and I know you have no reason to trust me, but I want to show you I've changed. The fact that he could acknowledge that I didn't feel safe meant a lot to me. It's, is what it is. Words are just fucking words. The actions aren't there to match up. But there is a beauty of being able to be so vulnerable with somebody where you can have an anxiety attack in their arms and they're still going to be there. Feeling that safe with somebody is what most women crave and just can't seem to find. That is real. That's what love is, but it can't be one-sided. And as somebody who has done the work that most people go their entire lives without doing, and if you're listening to this, you're probably also somebody who's either on that path, wants to start that path, or has already done it. When most people refuse to do that work, you can see through their words, but the thing is, it's harder to be understood by the people who aren't doing that work. And that can feel really isolating. It could spike your anxious attachment again. It can spike your anxiety, but this is where discernment comes in, and you have to be comfortable with that gap of discernment amongst people. And like, I'm genuinely begging for a guy to prove me wrong and to make me eat my words on all this shit. Like, but it just hasn't happened. And I think this is further proof that men just simply do not listen to women. Like, romance novels, the smut industry, it is a multi-million-dollar industry. It's detailing exactly how women want to be yearned for and loved, the kind of affection that they crave. It is an open book test, and yet men are still failing at it. Like, again, we have TikTok, we have Instagram. Like, men are still just thinking that women want tall and rich, and we're all gold diggers, and that is it. I would argue there are women like that, but I would argue the vast majority, not like that. Men just think, oh, women hate men and want us for our money. It's like, I don't know. In my opinion, I think any guy who is like done the work will understand why women are man haters. And if anything, you should want a woman who is a little bit of a man hater, because then if I am a man hater and I still choose to date your ass, I really fucking love you. Like, if you can't, as a man, understand why women have complicated feelings about men, like, what are you doing? Like, you should not be taking that personally. If anything, that should just be like the bar of standards. And here's the thing. I know I don't need a man. I know I'm okay on my own. The only man I need in my life is my man. Haven't found him yet. Where the fuck is my husband? But the thing is, the work, the single era, the self-love, the discernment, none of this is time wasted. None of this, like, I'm honestly, every time I start seeing somebody, immediately my mind goes to, is this person worth giving up giving up that freedom of being single for? Like, is this somebody who I want to be considering and prioritizing in my life? And are they going to do the same for me? Like, that's how I know I'll know him when he shows up, is because I will see him as an addition to the life that I have built and not a hindrance to it. And so at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, do you want to be Sierra Miller or do you want to be Amanda Betul? Do you want to be Do you want to be a woman with standards, or do you want to be a woman who just is chosen? And that is the difference of the two. And it's a question that we all need to consider. Like, there are women in this world who just want to be chosen, who just want to have the wedding and the ring, and they don't want actually the healthy relationship. Because I've said it before, just because you get married and you sign that piece of paper does not mean you're going to have a happy life and a successful marriage. Staying married to me does not mean it's successful. So I want you to remember with dating, like, yes, you can't always judge a book by its cover, but sometimes reading the first chapter is enough. Sometimes that initial glimpse of red flags is enough to say, you know what, I'm out. And you should. I literally was on the phone with a friend of mine discussing this whole situation of this guy who came back recently. And I was walking through the things that I've noticed, even if he was being a man of his word and like following through. The other things that I've noticed about him that to me are red flags and would be deal breakers in a relationship. For example, sports betting. I never thought that was something that would bother me, but hearing him talk about it and how much he does it, I was just kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I want a guy that does that. I don't know if that's something I want in a partner. And I was talking to my friend about this, and he was like, I mean, you're already saying, and it seems like you're trying to talk yourself out of it because you want to have empathy and kindness towards this guy, which is great. And I was like, oh shit, call me on my bullshit. Damn. But like, you know, it's okay to close the book after the first chapter and be like, this isn't for me. It doesn't make him a bad guy, doesn't make them a bad person. It just means they are not for you, but there's probably somebody else out there who would love them. Like, great. But at the end of the day, all of this, like, as much as this is like such a parasocial commentary episode, there are really real world themes and lessons to be learned from this situation. And I hope that, and like I said, I'm so excited for this damn finale. I just want to keep watching the series. It's just weird to watch now, knowing that they're together and like seeing all the moments, the looks, the touching, the flirting. Like, I mean, even Kyle said it himself, like, flirt with me once. I don't know. There's so much I could say on this situation that is just, but again, it would be uber parasocial. And I didn't want that to be the point of this episode. But what I want you guys to remember is that just because a guy comes back does not mean he's actually changed. 9 times out of 10, it's literally just to see if they can still have access to you. And it doesn't even always just mean access to your body. It just means some form of intimacy, because intimacy is not always about sex. And I think for me, that has been a really hard lesson to learn, is that it's not like always going to be about that. And as disappointing as it is and as frustrating as it is, observe, don't absorb. Not everything needs your reaction. And that is a lesson I am still learning every single day. But that is all for this week's episode of Not the Girl Next Door. Please, please, please make sure you're leaving us a 5-star review wherever you are listening. It really does go a long way. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Also really goes a long way. And the Tough Love Club is, and as much as this is your weekly dose of tough love, the Snail Mail Club is your monthly dose of tough love. So every month you'll get some journal prompts, a photo print of mine, and a letter detailing that month's theme. For April, it was all about whimsy. For May, who knows what's to come? Because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, more than likely I will do a theme around mental health. So stay tuned for that. I've already picked out the print and I'm super excited for it. It's one of my favorite photos that I've ever taken. So I really hope you guys will consider signing up for that. And I will see you guys next week for another episode. Bye for now.